So what I'm going to share in the next few minutes is some practical insights into how to manage a successful career. The way I'm going to do this is I'm just going to talk about what I achieved in my career and then some 5 steps that I think certainly helped me and I hope will help other people watching this. In terms of my career, I initially spent 16 years in the aerospace and defence sector. I had a fabulous career with one organisation, and by the age of 35 I was the HR director for one of our biggest business units. I had 3 naval shipyards where we employed 7,000 people, a team of 52 people to look after, and we had some really big transformational business change to manage. So I feel as though that was certainly one of my career highlights, and during those 16 years I managed to leapfrog grades twice, which was pretty unheard of, and I made it at the age of 35 to the highest pay grade, which I was really proud of. I then moved into the FMCG sector to get different experience. I was the board HR director for a business with 7 plants across the UK, and then 12 years ago I set up 2 successful businesses, H2H and New Leaf, and we've got some great clients, some fascinating projects, and that's a very fulfilling role that I'm still doing in terms of running those 2 businesses. So although I do try and be modest, when I kind of look back at that career I think, okay, I must have done some things right. So apologies for sharing that with you, but I just want to give hopefully some useful tips that helped me make some of those fairly bold moves. My first tip is to choose the right career for you. You've got to be happy and content and fulfilled at work, and if what you're doing doesn't feel right, you're unlikely to be at your best for it. So we encourage people to find what's their true north, what do you really want to do, and again, as I think some of your other videos address, it might not always be easy to identify what we really want to do and what might be most fulfilling. And certainly for myself, I was a graduate of modern languages and politics. I knew that I didn't want to teach or interpret by the time I finished my degree, so it's like, what do I do with this? So the route I took was to go for a route that would expose me to all sorts of different types of jobs, but that was in a sector that had always excited me. I've been interested in aviation since a small child. The reasons for that are probably the subject of a totally different video, but I really got excited by aviation, aeroplanes. So I literally applied to all things to do with aerospace on graduate schemes. So I was lucky enough to be recruited by an organisation in that sector. So I was excited by the sector, and that gave me the buzz, and then I was lucky enough to experience different roles within it. So choosing the right career, that was a clear point, and you need to focus on that. Managing your boss, I think I was really lucky because my first ever boss was one of my best. She was a very natural coach. She believed in me. She took risks with me. She put me in situations where I was quite scared, but I knew she was there. I knew she had my back. So that was great. And then of course it's really difficult for subsequent bosses to live up to that. But I think what that taught me is, I worked for some really nice people who people management just wasn't their strength. So actually you can respect what somebody has to offer if they're your boss, even if they're not the best boss ever. So you can actually start to manage your boss and ask for this help and support and the career development yourself, and just be a little bit more assertive. So don't be afraid to manage your own boss, and don't disrespect them if they're not the best manager or leader ever, because they've probably got some other fabulous skills to offer the organisation. Next piece of advice, dead obvious, develop a strong track record, particularly today with all of the systems around in organisations. There's nowhere to hide, there's no blue-eyed boy syndrome anymore, there's no people get there just on word of mouth. People look for tangible achievements and want to know kind of what's your legacy, what you're leaving behind in each role. So you have to develop a good track record and share that in an acceptable way with people who might need to know about it. So nobody likes people boasting about everything that they've done, but the reality is if people have got a stake in your long-term career, they do need to know about some of your achievements. So particularly if you work for an organisation that has some sort of performance review or appraisal system, you make sure everything's well documented. Don't rely on your boss, because it matters a lot more to you than just your boss. So my next piece of advice is to seize opportunities. Every organisation, no matter what size, has some sort of opportunity for growth. You know, I remember, I won't bore you now, but I can remember opportunities when I was a Saturday assistant in a shoe shop, right to some of the bigger roles that I've done. And there's always opportunities there if you showed yourself to be keen and ready to just take on different things. You know, I think I've worked out I like operating at the edge of my comfort zone, and I think that stood me in good stead to take a few risks. I've taken moves outside of my home function in an organisation. I've relocated. I've always jumped at these opportunities because you can just learn lots by them. So do seize opportunities as they present themselves. Often a crisis is a good opportunity. In a crisis organisations, it's kind of all hands to the deck, and some of those I look back on and think, yeah, I learnt a lot when the company I was working with was in a lot of difficulty. So seize opportunities. And the final one, we spend more with our colleagues at work than we do with friends and family outside of work, and almost as much as we spend sleeping. So we should have good fun at work. And so my final piece of advice is just enjoy the moment, enjoy your colleagues. When I look back at my career, more often than not, I end up smiling because I've met some amazing people many of whom I've chosen to stay in touch with, not every day, and sometimes you just think, yeah, I was lucky to have met those people, and they're very often ordinary folk, but who just had something amazing and exciting to offer. So do look back and enjoy the moment. So in summary, in terms of managing your career, what would I pass on? I would pass on, find the right job for you. And don't worry if it's not immediately available. If you're somebody starting out in your career, you're going to be working to way into your 70s and maybe your 80s. So you've got time to find out, so don't stress about it. You'll have bosses who are good at different things, so manage your boss if they're not the best people manager. Deliver, deliver and deliver. Great track record. Don't be afraid to try something different. Most organisations look for agility these days. So you need to demonstrate that you're prepared to take your skill set and apply it somewhere else. And above all, have fun.